gave a brief review last week.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but we'll do some other stuff first. How about that? All right. So we've got at least a couple interesting things going on right now. Let's talk about Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av. So Rosh Chodesh starts tonight. So it's a new moon tonight, and it's one day, so it'll end tomorrow afternoon. And there's many interesting things and amazing things about the month of Av. The sign of Av, according to Avraham Avinu, Sefer Yetzirah, is it's fire. It's a fire sign, so it's very electrifying. It's a very energetic time, and it's a fascinating month because it's the most it has the most imbalance, but also the most balance. So it's got dialectically opposed opposites going on. So as we start the month of Av, we're entering what most people call the most negative time of the year. Right, the next 9 days until Tisha B'Av are about as negative as you get. Right, so the last week and a half or so of Ben HaMitzarim is not the best, but now we're getting into the thick of it. So now we are increasing the restrictions. Starting tonight, we increase the restrictions much more. For example, we don't eat meat or chicken for the next 9 days. Starting tonight.
Oh my God, I cook so much.
On Shabbat's okay. You can eat it on Shabbat. You can eat it on this Shabbat, and you can eat it next Shabbat, even though it's Tisha B'Av. Next Shabbat is actually the 9th of Av, but the fast gets postponed until the 10th. But we treat Shabbat like Shabbat, just like a regular Shabbat, and you can eat it then. And there are other restrictions we avoid. We generally avoid swimming, certainly moving bodies of water. There's negativity associated with that. So that's the first 9 days. It's, again, I say we call it negative. We'll explain that in a minute. Then we get to Tu B'Av. She'll be here in 5 minutes? All right. So then we get to Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av is the most balanced day of the entire year. Okay? So why is that? Because the 15th of every month, Tu, so Tet and Vav, that's anytime you hear like Tu B'Shvat, Tu B'Av, Tu is a reference to Tet and Vav, and Tet and Vav that's how we make the 15. We don't ever use the Yud and the Hey. Yud and the Hey is the logical way to make 15, but that's God's name, so we don't use that. So instead we use Tet and Vav. So when we say Tu B'Shvat, we mean the 15th of the month of Shvat. When we say Tu B'Av, we mean the 15th of the month of Av. Okay? The 15th of every month is always the full moon. So it's the day when the moon has full control of the month. And generally it's when the energy of the month shifts. And the month of Av is the month that Sefer Yetzirah says is associated with the sun, the planet of the sun. That's the way Sefer Yetzirah. Sefer Yetzirah identifies 7 planets that control the different months, and the sun controls one of them. Some planets control multiple months, but the sun only controls one, and that month is the month of Av. So on the month of the year that's controlled by the sun, on the day of that month that's controlled by the moon, is the greatest balance you will ever have. You've got the full power of the sun, and you've got the full power of the moon for one 24-hour period of time. And they say, for example, some observe that as a day for joining soulmates, because the sun represents masculine energy and the moon represents feminine energy. So you have an opportunity for male and female to come together, to match in a way that they wouldn't otherwise. So the bottom line is it's an extremely balanced day.
Like business, to do business. Anything. I mean, it's a great day to create partnerships, to create not just marriage partnerships, any type of partnership. Sign a deal with a business partner. Absolutely. Almost every two is a great day. Okay, but Tu B'Av is as good as you get. It's the best. Really?
Yes, because you've got the sun and the moon in perfect balance.
When is it?
So it'll be in about 2.5 weeks from now.
Oh, 2nd of August.
There'll be the 15th, 2nd of August. Could be the 2nd of August. It could be because right now, well, what are we right now? It's the 12th,
Yeah.
and it'll be 15 days from now, right? It'll be 16 days from now. So it'll be like the 28th, 29th of July, something like that. I can look it up in a few minutes, but it'll be something like that, 29th of July, 30th of July, something like that. At least this year. Again, I mean, every year it changes, but this year it'll be around that time. So it's an incredibly positive month positive day because of the balance that exists on that day, the balance between the sun and the moon. So it means anything you do should have balance. And then the month shifts, and the month becomes almost entirely positive, and that's unusual. Most months are negative in the second half, but Av is positive in the second half. So it starts negative, apparently negative, starts negative. Then you have this day of perfect balance, which is Tu B'Av, and then the rest of the month, for the most part, is positive, building up to Elul. Okay. So the one thing that we want to think about in this time, it's not really that it's negative. It's that it's an opportunity for reflection and for us to kind of, let's say, lay low, so to speak. Don't start anything new. Don't put yourself in a risky situation. Certainly don't create any business relationships, things like that. They even say maybe to minimize the amount of work that you do during this time if you can. Just do the maintenance work, the things that you have to do.
My mom used to say, don't buy new clothes.
That's right. We don't buy new clothes because we don't say a shechianu during these 9 days. It's better not to launder clothes. And when we say launder, we mean not for the purposes of making things fresh and fragrant. If you need to clean something because it's dirty, you need to clean it because it's dirty. I mean, what are you going to do? But that's right. You don't refresh things. So, and again, the reason is not necessarily because it's exactly negative, but this is a time, like I said, for us to lay low, for us to be contemplative. I mean, we're working up to Tisha B'Av. What do we want to do on Tisha B'Av? On Tisha B'Av, we want to feel the pain of the destruction of the temples and all the other negative things that happened on the 9th of Av. Does that mean we want to be negative about it? No, we want to grow from it. So these next 9 days are, Kabbalistically, are a time for reflection. And that's why I say lay low. During the time that you're reflecting, when you're thinking of the discomforts and the pain and the challenges that others are going through or have gone through in the past, you don't want to be looking like you're out celebrating in new clothes. I mean, it's just kind of that simple. So that's what this time is. It's not necessary to see it as negative, but it's good to see it as not positive and an opportunity for reflection. Okay, so that's enough about Rosh Chodesh Av. Okay, so now we'll talk a little bit about the parashot. So this week it's Matot and Masei together. So we're going to read both of them, and we'll finish the book of Numbers, Bamidbar. We're going to finish that. We'll start Devarim next week. And there's a lot of, again, kind of weird stuff that happens. Here, I'll just pull it up, and we start talking about vows and oaths, and it talks about the idea that a woman can make an oath, and if she lives in her father's home, he can cancel it, and a husband can do the same. It's kind of strange. We're not going to talk about that this time, but it's a very interesting section. Talks a lot about how the land's going to be divided. Talks about the war that they have with the Midianites. To really finish off the Midianites is like the third time we've gone to war with the Midianites already. But this is supposedly it. We're really going to finish them off now. And in fact, they slaughter everybody except for the young women. That's it. They even kill the young boys. And in fact, I can't even imagine the scene, but they come back with
with people that they shouldn't have. They come back with adult women and young men, young boys, and Moses says, "You screwed up. You're going to have to take responsibility and go slaughter them," and they do. I mean, it's just an incredible story. And then we get into a story about Reuben and Gad, who asked to stay on one side of the Jordan River. That's also very interesting, instead of entering the land of Israel. And then we start Maseh. Maseh, it starts off with the journeys that the Israelites took, starting all the way back from the beginning, from when they left Egypt, 42 different stops that they made along the way to get to where they are right now, which is shortly before they're going to enter the land of Israel. It's in the 40th year. There's again some discussions about dividing of the land and who's going to be responsible for it, and it goes through the whole list of the tribes again and who's leading them, and then we get to the section that I want to talk about briefly. So it talks about the idea of what do you do with a murderer. Okay, so it goes through two different types of murder: unintentional murder and intentional murder. So unintentional murder, it says that Hashem instructs Moshe to establish cities of refuge, and somebody who is accused of murder gets sent to the city of refuge to basically protect them prior to their trial. If they're found guilty of murder, intentional murder, meaning premeditated, I believe that they're put to death. And if it's unintentional murder, they stay in that city of refuge until the Kohen Gadol of that generation dies. Okay? It's, again, a little bit weird. And then it gets even a little bit stranger. It says, so if the family of the one who was killed comes upon the accused murderer, even if it was unintentional, comes upon him and he's left the city of refuge, they have a right to kill him. Okay, so we got a lot of kind of strange stuff. So I couldn't find great sources for some of this stuff, but we'll talk about it from a more spiritual perspective. I'm not sure I'll call this a Kabbalistic perspective, but a more spiritual perspective. So what's the deal with unintentional murder? We don't exactly have this concept in modern day law. We sort of do. Like, for example, if somebody's accused of murder and it was completely and totally unintentional, they'd be most likely found innocent, and they're free to go. There's no kind of in between. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if it was truly an accident, you're innocent. Now there's manslaughter. Manslaughter would, again, I'm not an attorney, but I believe manslaughter would be more something like there is a level of guilt. It wasn't intentional. Second degree murder or manslaughter. What's it?
The head of the axe, that's always a good one.
Yeah. So, when you're negligent somehow,
Right.
This might be an in-between case. But if you truly did, nothing wrong, and somebody died as a result of your action,
This is accident.
it's an accident, and you'd probably, and again, in modern day law, you'd probably be found innocent, or there wouldn't even be a trial. It's an unfortunate accident. What are you going to do? The Torah doesn't see it that way. And Kabbalistically and spiritually, we should avoid seeing it that way. Just a related idea. So I remember that the Rav Berg, he used to say this idea. Somebody steps on your toe, and they hurt you, and they say, "Oh, sorry," and the Rav would say, "Sorry? What's sorry? My toe still hurts."
What can you do?
What sorry? What good was that sorry?
On him,
Come, this is ridiculous.
but what he can do?
Right. That's right. So what can you do? That's exactly the idea. So there's two things to do on both sides, okay? So if you're the recipient of somebody stepping on your toe, what's sorry? There's no sorry. You deserved it. Why did you deserve it? I can't answer that question, but cosmically you deserved it. You deserve to have your toe stepped on. You deserve the pain that you're going through.
Why?
From a literal standpoint, I can't answer that. But cosmically, there's a reason you needed to go through that pain. Maybe it was a level of atonement, like the best case we should actually hope for, that I'm going through a pain in order to help me atone for some sin that I did. I made my own sinful mistake, and going through a pain helps me atone for it. So I've been cleansed. Like, we should be thankful that sickness, even a cold, like, this is all I have to go through. I just have to go through a cold and I'm being cleansed of some mistake. I guess it wasn't that big of a mistake, I hope. And number two, look at the mercy of Hashem, that this is the way He chooses to cleanse me. That I don't have to lose a limb, that I don't have to lose a loved one. I got a cold, I got a stubbed toe, I got a whatever. If you got it, again, spiritually, Kabbalistically, you deserve it. Okay? So why does somebody have to say they're sorry for stepping on your toe? There's nothing to be sorry about. You deserved it. Maybe I shouldn't even say deserved it. You needed to go through it. Hashem runs the world, not the person who stepped on your toe. Hashem runs the world. Okay?
But does the person that says they're sorry to you know that? I mean, sorry is just being polite.
So again, conceptually speaking,
You step on somebody's toe.
does it mean that you shouldn't say you're sorry? Of course, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't say you're
Right.
sorry. But if you don't follow that up, so that's looking at it from the perspective of the victim, so to speak. The guy who has the sore toe. So that person is the victim, and if you're ever the victim, you're never the victim. If you choose to be the victim, what you've done is you've given up your free will. You've given up the responsibility for seeing that Hashem runs the world, not you and not the person who hurt you. Okay, that's what you've done. So you're never the victim. You look like you're the victim, but you never are. Now let's look at it from the perspective of the person who hurts you, or from your perspective if you're the one who hurt somebody. Okay? Your sorry is only valuable if it's followed up by introspection. Okay? That person needed to have their toe hurt. Why did you have to be the one to hurt their toe?
Shadiach.
Right?
What is Shadiach?
Like the messenger.
He's a messenger.
That's right.
You're saying Hitler and 6 million Jews, they deserved it.
From a spiritual standpoint, and again, it's a question that we would all need to grapple with very, very difficultly, and we maybe would never be able to get there. But from a cosmic standpoint, the people who lost their lives had a responsibility that they were unable to take on, that they needed to lose their lives. Why? I can't tell you that. I don't know if it's because of individual tikkuns, although it certainly is. I mean, it certainly is an individual tikkun. But why such a global perspective? Well, what about the people who didn't take responsibility for what was going on? They weren't directly murderers, but they were indirectly responsible. What about the overall awakening that it had on the world, to see like how brutal, and it wasn't just the 6 million Jews, we're talking about something like 14 million additional people, not to mention military. I mean, the numbers are enormous. So, right, I've heard incredible, tens of millions total. Okay, and again, I'm not trying to make any. Obviously, we're sitting.
Riots when we have riots in America, like Chicago or LA.
Right.
And they're
What about 9/11?
Stealing people's inventory from the stores and then burning them and beating the guy to death with a rock.
So we're going to get to a little bit of a different level in just a second here, but at least for now, let's talk about let's stay on the unintentional part, okay? Because that's where we started this. I think maybe you didn't hear that when you walked in. So the end of Maseh is talking about unintentional and intentional murder. So as we're talking about unintentional, it refers to anything that's unintentional. I didn't mean to step on your toe. I hope I didn't, okay? But the fact is you deserved it, but why did I have to be the one to do it? So hopefully you'll have some introspection. And you have to think about, why was I in this situation? Why was I put in the one to have to hurt this person? Why? What's on my soul? What's clouding me that I, wasn't aware of what I was about to do? I think about a situation for myself. It wasn't such a big deal, but it crosses my mind quite a bit where I was traveling abroad a number of years ago, and I ended up in a bad part of town, and there's no reason I should have ever ended up there. And I missed so many signs along the way. It was ridiculous. And I mean, it was really a dangerous area that I was in. And I was very thankful there was a kind of a good Samaritan who kind of pulled me out of there. And again, not that I ever felt in any danger, but it was clear I was somewhere I shouldn't be. And it was clear that there were at least 3 or 4 things that happened along the way that I should have never been there. It should have been so clear to me that I was going the wrong direction. And it was a little bit of a wake-up call. And I kind of, first of all, of course, I thank you to Hashem. But in addition to that, I said, please, I'll do me a favor, slap me a little harder, and I'll try and do a better job to pay attention to you. And it's kind of stuck with me for quite a while, since then. And it's something important for us to do. So the sorry doesn't mean anything without the introspection. It just doesn't mean anything. It has no value. So when you're saying you're sorry, yes, you're being polite, but you're also saying, wow, I'm sorry that I was unaware of the consequences that my actions could have on another person. Even if it's just as simple as stepping on somebody's toe. Like, how did I get to this place? What happened? Yeah.
How about you sitting at a table, okay, and you spill water on somebody?
Oops.
Now, I do that all the time because my depth perception is very bad. So I'll put my hand out, and I'll do it. Now, am I supposed to sit down and think about why did that happen?
In a level of speaking, yes. I mean, why do you have a depth perception issue? Well, again, maybe let's say that you are experiencing embarrassment as a result of the fact that this happens more often than it does to other people.
I don't feel good about it.
Exactly. You don't feel good about it. So there's a reason. Embarrassment is a type of cleansing. It's a type of sickness. It's a type of pain. It's something that you're going through. You're going through an emotional pain rather than going through a physical pain. So you also, again, quote unquote, deserve it. Okay? So the way that it's transmitted to you in a physical sense is Hashem has afflicted you with a depth perception issue. But spiritually, it's cleansing your soul. It is, in a way, something to be thankful for. I know it's hard to do, but that's the kind of introspection that you can have. You can be introspective and say, what did I do in either this lifetime or maybe even in previous lifetimes to need to have a depth perception issue that results in me knocking over water and being embarrassed by the situation? Yes, it's very relevant. It's very relevant to your life. And it, again, the idea here is that it helps you draw a closeness to Hashem. That's always the goal, right? That somehow the embarrassment that you experience is drawing you close to Hashem. Do you need to say you're sorry? Again, for polite purposes, yes, but you don't really. There's no sorry. That person needed water spilled on them. And if anything, hopefully it's mercy. Maybe their clothes were wet at a moment that they were standing in front of a fire that otherwise would have, lit up their shirt or something. I mean, who knows? Who knows why these things happen? I think many of us have had that experience too, where something quote-unquote bad happened to us, and it can be anything. It can be in the moment or it can be something long-term, and end up being good.
But if you take somebody who has this insight, okay, and they step on your foot, and to them, this is a cleansing experience. Okay, they're not going to. It doesn't even cross their mind to say I'm sorry.
To say sorry,
right? And then, but I guess and again, it's not. They're not saying I'm sorry to you because they're rude. They're not saying I'm sorry to you because they have the same insight that you're expressing right now, right? But I don't think a lot of people have that insight. They're just, it's an accident. They stepped on your foot, and that's the end of it.
Okay, so what are you going to do with that? So let's say you're the one, again, who's the victim, and the person doesn't say, I'm sorry, and you're pretty sure it's one of these people who's not saying, I'm sorry, just because they're a jerk. They're rude. So what are you going to do about it? That's again, the question. You know, you will do know better.
Now I might think about it a second time.
Right.
Now that you mentioned
But-
it,
but
but I never
you-
would have thought of it before.
But you do know better,
Like
first of
now.
all, right? Well,
No, because otherwise I wouldn't have thought about it.
Right.
I said, that
But-
person's a jerk or whatever.
and maybe you still will. Maybe you still say they're a jerk, and that's their problem. But it shouldn't change you at all. Once your mindset of that person's a jerk starts going down the path of, and I'm going to judge them for it, maybe they are a jerk. It doesn't give you a right to judge them. I mean, somebody could legitimately just be a jerk. You know?
Then they should wear a sign.
Yeah, exactly. Right on their forehead.
Wear a
So
sign.
Ellie, so really, we don't really need someone to say they're sorry.
That we don't. We absolutely do. If we become a victim of a situation, and we don't need it from two perspectives. Number one, we don't need it because we deserved it. Number two, we don't need it because if we feel like we need it, well, again, we've given up our free will. I need you to say you're sorry to me because otherwise you're a jerk. Hey, be a jerk. I don't care. It has nothing to do with me. My life is about being close to Hashem. My life is not about whether you choose to be close to Hashem. That is not what my life and my happiness, my joy, my excitement, and my closeness to Hashem are based on. They're not based on how you treat me. They're based on how I treat myself and how I choose to see the way the world is run. Always. Okay? So that's a little bit beyond the perspective of what the Siddur, what the Parsha is talking about. But
you become victim like this.
Right.
You say you deserve to get...
Exactly. I deserve. Why do I deserve anything? Exactly right. And by making myself somebody who deserves, I once again become the victim and I give up my free will. Don't ever put yourself, no matter what, don't ever put yourself in the position of being a victim. When you become a victim, it means you become a taker. You're just sucking energy out of the world. That's all you're doing. Right? And even if you're not going to go back to that person, tell them what a jerk they are, but you're sitting in your own misery. Oh, poor me, my bad toe. And on top of that, he didn't even say he's sorry. Poor me, poor me, poor me.
So is it good to say you deserve it?
Yeah, I mean, not to beat yourself up over it, but to be able to say, okay, I mean,
It happened for a reason.
it happened for a reason, and I'm going to move on with my life. Thank you, Hashem, for the mercy of whatever it was. And, thank you, maybe this person didn't say they're sorry. So thank you, in addition, for giving me the opportunity to have free will again. And to be able to say, I don't need their sorry. I'm good. I'm going to move on with my life. I'm good. And that's also a blessing from Hashem. Because what is it? It's a challenge from the Sidra Achra. It's a challenge from the Yetzer Hara. Let's see if I can get Stuart to react. Let's see if I can get him. He's in a bad mood anyway. He got up on the wrong side of the bed anyway. So I'm going to get somebody to step on his toe, and I'm going to make sure he doesn't say he's sorry. I'm going to get him. And say, forget you. I know who you are. You're the other side of the coin. I'm good. I'm close to Hashem. That's all I need. I'm good. Okay. So, even in the case of unintentional murder, the person who unintentionally murders has a level of responsibility, and that's why they end up in the refuge city. Okay? They don't become innocent, so to speak.
When you say, but I think when we learned this, when we've talked about this in the past, it's generally been called manslaughter, not unintentional murder.
That's a term that they use.
They usually call it manslaughter. Like again, the old axe handle where the axe and kill somebody and they take them and they put them in the city of refuge. That's the way it's been generally been taught. Is there any problem about thinking in those terms? That's kind of an easy way to think about it.
Yeah. I just don't know the translation for these words. I don't know if somebody would translate these as. I don't know if they would translate it as manslaughter or. I don't know. I don't know the Hebrew well enough to tell you that. But I guess that's fine. We can. The idea is that they did it without premeditation.
Right.
That's for sure. Okay? It was some type of an accident. But even when it's an accident, the person who caused the accident is still quote unquote guilty of something. And that's why they don't end up, again, just innocent and free. They do have to go to the city of refuge. From a spiritual perspective, just add one more thing, and then I'll answer your question. In addition to that, they don't get freed until the Kohen Gadol dies, because the Kohen Gadol is spiritually responsible for all of us. So if murder happens just in any way, shape, or form, intentional or otherwise, there is a level of responsibility that sits with the Kohen Gadol, because he is spiritually responsible for all of us, and his downfall is a sign that, or his death is a sign that whatever punishment you've paid, so to speak, has now been paid in full. All right. What were you going to say or ask?
Oh, somebody was just telling me today they were in the parking lot, came out, somebody hit their car and scraped the side of it and just left. So all they had was the broken glass and the white truck, because obviously it was high, going across. So I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty much what Las Vegas is all about.
Yeah.
The people. So, like, what do these people do that, whether it's intentional or not, they did it, and then they didn't accept responsibility for it?
Right. So,
But that's their problem.
as they say, karma's a bitch.
Yeah.
You know.
You know her too?
Yeah. So, but
Heard that recently.
however, and I think we've talked about this idea before. However, the stopping point for us as the victim, or even as somebody who observes it, because sometimes we get mad on somebody else's behalf. Sometimes even the victim isn't so mad, but we're mad. We're mad about what we saw happen, right? Our job is to stop short of judging. That's always our job. We are not judges. There is only one judge, only one true judge in this world. That's Hashem. Okay? So we can say, hey, that wasn't nice. Hey, maybe that was against the law. It would be best if you repented. But it's one of these things where you need to be careful about how you judge somebody else. You can lay judgment on somebody else. You can say to Hashem, I want you to judge this person for the way they behaved, or I'm judging them, and which basically means I'm asking you to judge them. And Hashem will say, sure, I'll judge them, but you just got to be prepared. That means I'm judging you too. That's the way karma works. So if you are the one that says, I want this person to get what they deserve, it means you better be prepared to get what you deserve. And most of the time, if we really think about it, we live in a world of mercy where we don't get what we really deserve. We get something much, much better than what we really deserve, if we really think about it. And even if it doesn't seem that way, it is that way. I mean, it's an absolute fact. That is the way the world works. It works in perfect balance. So if it doesn't seem that way, it means we maybe did something unintentionally in this lifetime, or we did something intentionally or unintentionally in a previous lifetime. We just don't know. We don't remember it. It's been too many lifetimes. So, but that is technically, Kabbalistically, the way karma works. You don't want to ever ask for judgment on somebody else, because that will result in judgment on you first. So just be prepared for that.
The case of what Kim was talking about. Okay, so the person whose vehicle got damaged. Okay, I mean, they should look at it as being, why did this happen? Not looking to, hang somebody else.
That's right.
It happened for a reason.
It does them, and it happened for a reason, that the person ran off, so they can't even file a police report, file an insurance claim. What are they going to do?
But the damage was done to this particular person for a particular reason.
And again,
it wasn't an accident.
That's right. There is no such thing in this world as accidents. There's no such thing.
So you say, excuse me.
No.
You say you can judge somebody else because you get judged.
That's right. I mean, you can just be prepared for that.
Prepare for what? Being
To be
judged?
judged.
Yeah.
They say also if you curse somebody, it's going to come back to you.
Well, but it's the same idea. It doesn't really come back to you. It's just this idea that if you're asking Hashem to curse somebody, because that's what you're asking, you're saying, hey, God, I know the way the world works. And the way the world works is this person did something bad and they should be cursed. And because you're not doing it, I'm doing it on your behalf. Right? That's what you're saying. Do you want to be saying that? Is that really what you want coming out of your mouth? And if it is, then you need to be prepared that somebody else might be saying the same thing about you, and that you're, but Hashem had mercy on you. Hashem blocked that curse from coming upon you because you chose not to curse in situations where you could have. Right? That's the way you behave. You act with mercy, Hashem will act with you with mercy. You act with judgment, Hashem will act with you with judgment. That's the way the world works. You jump off the top of a building, gravity will pull you down. You can't escape that. It's exactly the same. You curse, you will be cursed. This is the life you choose to live. You have the free will to live the life that you want to live. You want to live a life of judgment, live a life of judgment. You will be judged. You may not even notice it, but you will be judged. Over the course of time, you'll look back in your life and see that you were judged. Again, the thing, though, that I keep on coming back to, Kabbalistically, we all have our own tikkun. So, you might look at a situation and say, I did this terrible thing and nothing bad happened to me, so I guess it's not the way the world works. Yes, it still works that way. You just have a tikkun that may be holding you up from being judged, or the opposite, that may be causing you to be judged even though you're acting with mercy. So it's not, even though the world on a global perspective works this way, it doesn't mean that any 1 second in time that you'll be able to point to, this is what happened here and this is what happened here. And in fact, and I think we talked about this way, way back at the beginning, it generally won't work that way because one of the tools of the Yetzer Hara is time. Yeah, time doesn't exist for Hashem. There's no such thing. Time exists. One of the reasons why time exists is for us, so that we can live in a physical universe and complete our tikkun process. And the other is for the Yetzer Hara, for the other side to play games with us. You think you got away with something. You ate a Big Mac with cheese. You got away with it. The lightning didn't come down and strike you and kill you. You can get away with nothing. You can get away with nothing. It's not the way the world works. Okay? Again, the Yetzer Hara wants you to think that that's the way the world works. It's not the way the world works. It's a nice trick. Beautiful trick. As long as we continue to see that, as long as we see that time can work for me in the completion of my tikkun, or it can work against me in the way that the negative side treats me and tricks me, as long as we see that, Hashem will be able to balance things for us, because we're living in balance. Again, we live in balance, Hashem will allow us to live in balance. All right, so let's get to, briefly, intentional murder. So, truly, murder. Somebody premeditates the idea, I'm going to kill somebody. When they choose to do something like that, basically what they're doing is they are defying the way that the world works. Okay, it's like gravity pushing you away instead of pulling you towards it. It's that significant. Okay, murder is not a joke because murder changes the path of the world on a cosmic level. I know it seems small. It's one person out of 7.5 billion. But spiritually, it's incredibly significant for the murderer. Not the murdered. Again, they quote-unquote deserved it. But the murderer...
Can I interrupt this Kabbalistic enhancing moment?
We were just talking about murders.
Is it put that on our pause?
All right. Continuing on from there, from the idea of intentional murder. So intentional murder changes the way of the world. So here's what the Ari says, just in a quick summary. When a man sins against his neighbor, the two have to incarnate. I think he's saying reincarnate. And the one who caused him to sin will be conceived in him to help him to perform precepts to make restitution for the particular sinful matter that he had caused. So basically what it's saying, as you continue on, and it gets into a great bit of detail that we're not going to get to tonight, but actually is related to some of the things I thought we would talk about from the Tanya. The sparks of a soul, the way the nefesh, ruach, and neshama work together. But basically, what it's saying is their neshamot are going to be reincarnated together, and they are going to be like zugim. They're going to be like a couple, a partner in correcting each other. That's basically what the Ari is saying in the gates of reincarnation in the Shara Gilgulim. So it's you could say it's a life sentence, but a different type of life sentence. It's a life sentence for the next lifetime, that they will be in each other's movie for the purposes of giving the opportunity for correction, because free will was removed from the world. The world was changed in a way that goes against nature, and so nature has to kind of give the opportunity for additional correction. It doesn't mean it will happen in the next lifetime, but it's supposed to. And I give you that to think about when you think about, especially about family members and close friends / enemies. The people that are in your life are in your life for a reason. You know, it might be tough to think about, but God forbid one of you was a murderer in a previous lifetime, and you're back together to solve it. That's a portion of your tikkun.
So we always been with the same people?
Well, it happens a lot, and especially it happens now. So I heard a lecture recently. It was talking about this idea that, and we've talked about different parts of this at other times, that the original sin, so to speak, was the sin of Adam in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden. And it was so enormous that it's going to take 6,000 years to correct it. Not only is it going to take 6,000 years to correct it, it's going to take 7.5 billion people to correct it. Right? I mean, that's where we're getting to. So one of the reasons why they say that that we've got so many people on this earth right now is because the pieces of the correction, which started originally at 600,000, so those are the original souls, 600,000 original souls, has just it's become little tiny pieces and pieces and pieces and pieces and pieces and pieces, right? So there was this big tikkun that this 1 out of 600,000 that they took on 1/600,000th of this enormous tikkun that they had to correct for the sin of Adam. Okay. And they corrected a portion of it. So then that then got resplit amongst a couple of other people, because otherwise it couldn't be corrected in a single lifetime. It could be that kind of a thing. You know, how maybe you've got diametrically opposed, you know, cosmic concepts that require correction, so you got to split them up. Otherwise, how can they be, you know, this person, in order to create this correction, needs to go through this experience being born in Africa in poverty, and this one's got to go through this experience being born son of a millionaire in the United States. You have a choice. Your soul has a choice in the other world, in a negotiation process that takes place between its angel, its basically guardian angel, and Hashem. That's what happens. There's a negotiation.
We have a defense attorney, so to speak.
So to speak, that's right. So you go up there and you say, I want to take on this particular part of the tikkun, or of my tikkun process. And the angel goes to Hashem, and Hashem says, fine, if that's what you want, then you need to be born at 6:42 p.m. in Sderot to Gati and Sarah, and in 1957 on June 27th, because that will give you the cosmic support that you need. And it makes sense for you because your uncle, Shmuley, murdered you 3 lifetimes ago. And
This would make a great movie.
Unbelievable, right? But that is what the Shari Gilgulim is explaining. This is what happens when there's intentional murder in the world.
Then my question for America, but actually for the world, is right now it's huge with drug use, legal and illegal, and pornography. It's pornography now in America is bigger than all the professional sports revenue combined. And so more and more people are getting on drugs. Sure, they start with pot and then continue on and can't function in life. And so it's a huge burden on society in America, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. It keeps getting worse with each new state going online with drug use, making it legal.
So I mean, again, from a standpoint of legalizing drugs, or
So is America like destined for destruction because we're immoral now?
what some of the commentators might say is happening, or what I've seen, indicated before, is a person, we become so, you could say, deluded in these few remaining years to complete the tikkun process, because that's the Kabbalists explain there's 6,000 years of the game, and we're on 57, 78, right? So
222 years.
yeah, it ain't much, right? It's like the sun is setting, right? So this is like the last chance to get some of these tikkuns done. So some people come to this lifetime just to do one thing, and that one thing might be to stay off drugs. That's it. That's the only thing that person
But
came
more
here
and
to
more
do.
people are getting hooked on
That's
drugs.
right. That's right. So how does that make sense? Because when that's all you've got to do, where's the rest of life? I mean, you've got to find a way to have a life instead of being caught up in that one thing that's so unbelievably tempting, right? That it drags you down. I mean, we're all tempted by something, and we all have been tempted by something. Different things for different people. And that's what these people came with. They came with a craving for drugs that, God willing, none of us in this room will ever comprehend in any way, shape, or form. An intense craving.
But they came to this lifetime with some sort of a tikkun, right?
Well,
But through their own free will. Is this where free
that
will
is,
comes
at the
in?
end of the day, that's right. Through their own free will, they chose to give in to that temptation. That's the only thing they needed to do was resist that temptation. That's it. And they were unable to. Or can be other things. Think about the things that happen as a result of drug abuse. For some people, drug abuse means that they'll go through a recovery program and their life will be saved in a way that they will bring mercy to the world unlike we've ever seen before. So I'm sad to say that it doesn't look like it's happening. You don't see as many of those stories as obviously all of us would like to see, but you hear them, these incredible inspirational stories, and they happen. So sometimes it's the dusk before the dawn. It's the greatest darkness before the dawn. And that's the challenge. The person just needs to live through the experience so they can come out the other end, take responsibility for it in a way that they bring mercy to the world. I mean, again, it's so complicated, but there's also the possibility, if you want to look at it simply, there's a possibility to distill it and look at the world. I guess the reason why I say these kinds of things is so it gives you an opportunity to look at the world with a sense of structure, where otherwise it may look like the world is completely random. Because that's the last thing we ever want to do, is look at the world as random. Looking at the world as random will drag us away from Hashem. That's what it will do. Ultimately, it'll drag us away from Hashem. It'll put us in the opposite position of where we want to be. Okay? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll get back to Tanya, God willing, next week.
Go to my phone.